joining Collaborative Divorce Vancouver's channel, where everything is collaborative. Here we interview experienced professionals like lawyer, financials, and mental health to give you an insight into how collaborative divorce works. Today joining us, we have Jennie Weeks, a financial specialist who works at Springtide Wealth. Thank you for joining us today, Jennie. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy to be here.
Great. We have a few questions for you to answer. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Why do you choose to practice collaborative law?
Well, I joined the Collaborative Divorce Vancouver about 10 years ago, and I work as a financial neutral. So I don't actually practice law, but I work within the collaborative law process. And what I do is I support the families by acting as a neutral party to help them understand their finances. And the reason that I chose to be part of this process was that I actually went through my own separation when I was about 31 years old. And my biggest fear was actually around my finances. So I probably stayed in my marriage longer. The fear was it was paralyzing. And so I feel that this process is really one of the few processes where you can come in with a financial knowledge and actually be able to help a family move forward. So because it isn't adversarial and because I work as a neutral, my voice is there for the family.
That's great.
And I really have ability to make an impact. And it's more difficult to have an impact when you're just working with one person when they're going through a divorce. So I have found it to be incredibly rewarding to see families be able to go through the process with real clarity and understanding to be able to make good decisions.
And so during this process, what role do you have in the collaborative process?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Beatrice. People don't even really know what I do working as a financial planner. So I always say to anyone going through a separation that you're navigating this legal process. And most people have never had to do that before. But it's also a time when people have to look at their family finances. And a lot of couples really haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb and really understood what their family net worth is. It's often the first time in a marriage that both parties are at the table looking at their finances. And so really, that is what I do. I don't give legal advice, but what I do is I gather the information from both parties, and then I make sure that both parties understand what everything means. And then when it's necessary, I will also help either parent to figure out what their life is going to look like after separation, based on what the lawyers are suggesting or what as a family they're deciding is going to happen. So there's a big part during the process in supporting the understanding and bringing everybody to the same level so that people can make really informed decisions about their finances.
Yeah, that's great. So would you tell us which of your favorite stories of an outcome from a separation that was done collaboratively? Sorry, tongue-tied there.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So my specialty in collaborative is working with high net worth families. So I'm really quite passionate about how important it is to understand what you need. One of the things that can happen is that if you don't understand what's going on, you get attached to getting the most, right? But if you don't understand, you don't even really know what the most is. Yeah. So when I'm able to come into a family with a really complex situation and be able to show one or both parties how they're going to be okay coming out the other end, and to be able to make really good decisions about potentially how some of that wealth might actually help the children, and take them out of that positional approach of needing to get something in order to be sure that they didn't miss out, and because I'm neutral, I always look at it as, well, I can show you what half looks like, but I can also show you what you're going to need to live a successful life. And I can show you what might be best for your family. More specifically, I did have a family that had a lot of international connections. And I pride myself on being able to ensure that a family ends up with more money in their pocket and that their taxes are less. And I have a lot of different stories about being able to really help families have more after-tax cash flow and be able to use the different tax laws around division of assets in order for both families to be, or both spouses, to be able to actually walk away with a more tax-advantaged life after. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's what I like to solve the problem and find more for a family. And I've done that successfully on a lot of different files. So it's been lots of fun.
So since you've done that successfully for other families, what advice would you give a best friend or a family member before they embark on separation?
Yeah, well, I think that the advice that I would give would be that you need a really strong team around you. I'm a real believer in getting a mental health professional to help with the parenting. I think that children are the most vulnerable in the whole situation. And so I'm a real believer in making sure that you and your partner are on the same team around supporting your children, number one. So I would definitely reach out and find out how to make that happen. Obviously not everybody has the resources to spend all the money on hiring specialists, but there are a lot of resources that are out there that you can access as well through governments. There are, right? There's a lot of support out there, and there's a lot of support also through Collaborative Divorce Vancouver and our Roster Society. We do have a pro bono program for low-income families. And then the other piece too that I really recommend is, regardless, you should be having a financial planner, investment advisor, helping you understand how to manage your money. The most important piece is that you cannot make an informed decision if you can't understand what your life is going to look like post-divorce.
Exactly.
Right? So my role is to give you clarity, not to make the decision for you, but for you to help you understand so that the decisions you make, whether it's selling the family home to buy a smaller townhouse, whether you can afford to put your kids in private school any longer, like really understanding what you're giving up to make those decisions when you make those decisions. Right? I call it conscious financial decision making. You have to have the awareness of how the decisions that you make affect your life, the life of your children, and what those are as you're going through a separation.
Great. Great advice. That is wonderful advice. And is there anything else you would like to tell us about your experience with Collaborative?
There's something that I say to every person that calls me up to ask me a question as they're going through their separation. I get a lot of people that call and say, would you be able to help me, etc. And what I really want people to realize is that when you're getting separated, you're embarking on a legal journey, a financial journey, and a mental health journey. All three of those are happening. And so, this is probably one of the most stressful times that's ever going to happen in your life. What's really important to understand when you go through that is that it's the division of your family. You're going to share your children. You're going to divide your community. You're dividing your assets. You're dividing your income. So those are all real things that are happening. And that is a really, really challenging time. But it's really important that you go in understanding that that is happening and not trying to take more than your share. And I really think that's one of the goals that we have in collaborative divorce is how do we get a family through that division without keeping as much of the income intact, the assets intact, the community intact, the child's lives intact, So from a high level, you really need to come in with that perspective and not a scarcity perspective, because you will have scarcity. It is part of what happens when you go through a separation. And our goal is to try to keep as much abundance in all of your lives as we possibly can.
Thank you so much, Jennie, for joining us today. It was
my
great.
Pleasure.
Thank you. And if you want to learn more about Jennie, visit our website and go to her profile. Thank you again for being with us today.
All right. Thank you, Beatrice.